Now that you know how to compute expected return and standard deviation for a single stock, the next thing we want to do is look at what happens if we own more than one stock. When we own more than one stock, we call it a portfolio. Portfolio simply means that there are more than one single item in your investment. So if you own a stock and a bond, you own a house and a stock, you own two stocks, you own a mutual funds, all those are, as long as you own more than a single stock, you own a portfolio. So as you can see, most investors own portfolios. So we want to analyze the risk and return characteristics of a portfolio. The good news is that it's about weighted average. So the return on a portfolio is simply the weighted average of the return in the underlying stock. So here we have K stocks, for example, and then W is the weight. So we take the weight in the portfolio in the stock times the return on the stock. So the return on portfolio is a simple weighted average. Just one word of caution that I want to include in here, and that is when we compute the weight, this weight should be based on value, not price. So the weight should be based on market value weights. Okay, so and another thing that we want to mention is that the variance of a portfolio is not a simple weighted average, and we need to take into account a concept called correlation coefficient. We will not go over how to compute correlation coefficient in this class, but in a more advanced class such as investments, we will go into how to do those calculations. However, that doesn't impact our ability to understand how portfolio works. So let's take a look at an example. We'll use only two stocks in this example. But it's sufficient. So it shows us that when we include more than one stock in a portfolio, we gain the benefit of diversification. And more importantly, it helped to illustrate the difference between the risk on a portfolio and the risk of the underlying security. So your portfolio is made up of the individual stocks, and the risk of the individual stocks varies depending on the stocks you have. But the risk of the portfolio depends on not just the risk of the stocks on the underlying stock, but it also depends on how the stock reacts to changes in the economic environment. So if the two stocks react the same way, we said that they're positively correlated, and that reduce your ability to reduce risk through diversification. If the two stocks react differently to the same economic condition, then they give this, by having both stocks in your portfolio, increases your ability to reduce risk through diversification. So let's go through the following steps. So first, we're going to go through a portfolio example and show how does that work. So in this example, we need to introduce one more stock. So in this example, we have two stocks, stock A and stock B. So let's first take a look at how we will, what does this table tells you. So we have three possible economic conditions here. The economy can go into a boom, it can stay neutral, or it can go into a bust. The probability of these events happening are 20%, 30%, 50%. So again, we want to check that the probability adds up to 1. So remember, the probability is kind of like a weight of what may happen. We have two stocks. This is stock A. When things are doing well, stock A will give you 40% in return. Neutral, stock will give you 12%, and when the economy goes bust, stock A is going to lose 5%. Stock B, if things go well, this is an interesting stock. It only goes up by 5%. When things are neutral, it gives you a return of 12%. And when things are bad, it gives you a return of loses 2%. So stock A and stock B reacts to different economic conditions very differently. Stock A, as you can see, goes up a lot and it goes down a lot more. Stock B, on the other hand, doesn't go up much. In fact, they will earn a higher return if things stays neutral. If things goes bad, you'll also go down, but not nearly as much as stock A. So what we have in front of us is an example of two stocks that reacts very differently to the same economic condition. So here's an economic condition that the economy is going to do well. So the same economic condition, but the two stocks reacts very differently. So as a practice, let's go ahead and compute the expected return and the standard deviation for both stocks A and stock B. So go ahead and do that. Compute the expected return for stock A and the expected return for stock B. And also compute the standard deviation for stock A and the standard deviation for stock B. If you forget how to do that, go back to the last video and take a look. Okay. Did you get these answers? So the expected return on stock A is 9.1%. Standard deviation is 17.11%. Expected return for stock B is 3.6%, and standard deviation for stock B is 6.1%. So far, this is a review of what we have seen. The next thing we're going to do is something new. We're going to put stock A and stock B into a portfolio. So in other words, we're going to buy stock A and stock B, and now we're going to look at what will happen to our portfolio under different economic conditions. So what we're going to do is we said, well, we don't really know how to construct portfolio, and we don't know whether stock A is a better investment than stock B. Let's take a naive strategy. We're just going to split our money. We're going to put half of it in A and half of it in B. So in other words, we're going to put 50% of our investment in stock A, so that's our weight in stock A, and 50% of our investment in stock B. Let's see how our portfolio will perform. So to create our portfolio, basically we have to find out what the return is in all circumstances. Remember that we are putting our portfolio 50-50. So 50% of our money is on A, 50% of our money is on stock B. So when things are doing well, so let's say the economy is doing really, really well, we will want to see what will happen. So since half of our money is in A, we'll take the weight times the return, and half of our money is in B, so 50% of money will earn 40%, so 40% times 0.5, which is the weight on stock A, plus 5% is our weight on times the weight on stock B, which is 50%. So our weighted average portfolio return when the economy is doing well is 22.5%. Now let's see what will our portfolio do when the economy is just going to be neutral. So the second case. Remember, we place our investment beforehand, so we don't change our weight. It's always 50%. You can think of it as you lock into your investment. So half of our investment earn 12%, half of our investment earn also 12%. So of course, our portfolio earns a return of also 12%. Now in the last case, the economy is going to go into a bust. Once again, half of our money is in A and half of our money is in B. So our portfolio return, we lose some money, but we didn't lose nearly as much. So our portfolio return is 3.5%. So that's how our portfolio will perform. So if you buy just stock A, this is the return you earn. If you buy just stock B, this is the return you earn. But if you put your money 50-50 into stock A and stock B and create a portfolio, these are the returns that you'll earn. And now you can also go ahead and compute the expected return and standard deviation for this portfolio. And the calculation is the same. Because if you want to find the expected return on the portfolio, it's no different than computing the expected return on the stock. Because remember, you have a 20% chance of earning 22.5%, and then you have a 30% chance of earning 12%. And then you have a 50% chance of earning or losing negative 3.5%. So the way that you compute the expected return is exactly the same as you would when you're computing the expected return for a single stock. So the return for the expected return for the portfolio is 6.35%. And you can do the same thing. You can compute the variance for the portfolio. Again, the same approach as you've done to compute the individual stock. So the variance is equal to 20% chance that you will earn 22.5%. So that's the first scenario when you are expecting 6.35%. And then plus there's a 30% chance that you will earn 12.5% when you were expecting 6.35%. So 12% is what you will earn in the second scenario. You were expecting 6.35%. So again, we squared that. And then the last probability, last scenario, you will lose 3.5% when you were expecting 6.35%. So you can find the variance for the portfolio. And the variance of the portfolio is 0.011. And the standard deviation of the portfolio, obviously, is just the square root of the variance. So the standard deviation for the portfolio is 10.5%. So pause this video, and you have a lot of practice to compute expected return and standard deviation. Next thing I want you to do is to try out different ways to create your portfolio. So we'll keep having just two stocks, stock A and stock B, but there's an Excel worksheet that will allow you to try out different weights. So if you put 20% and 80%, so 20% in stock A, 80% in stock B, you'll see that the return is going to be different and the standard deviation is going to be a lot lower. So you can see that by just having two stocks, you can create a many different portfolio. You can have a portfolio that's 50-50, portfolio that's 20-80, a portfolio that's 70-30, for example. So you can create many different combinations of stock A and stock B to create a new portfolio. And you will see the risk return characteristic, meaning the expected return and the standard deviation on different combination of the stocks.